here, y'all. Hold on. I'm gonna let y'all get on here and I'm gonna finish getting what I need together. Whoa, see, look. That's why. Hold on, y'all. Let me finish getting this right. I thought I had it. Okay, there we go. Right. Right now, I'm trying to get onto my computer real quick because I have some notes on there, but it's not getting along with me. So hold on. Dom, can you bring me my computer back that's right there? Or are you still using your computer?
Yeah.
Yeah, can you bring my computer back? But yeah, I'm gonna keep, my phone is sideways, so. Hi, Tiffany. Hi, Alyssa. Hi, Dev. Hi, Jamal. Hi, Dane Dane. Hi, Tiffany again. Thanks, y'all, for joining on time. Yeah, so I have some notes on my computer that I, wanted to be able to reference. I may just have to hold my phone. I didn't want to have to hold my phone in my hands, but I may not have a choice if I can't get my computer to act right. So I'm gonna give people a few more minutes to come on. Since so many people voted yesterday that they wanted me to go live and just give some more background. Well, I'm gonna give what I can give, okay, guys? I can't tell y'all too much because we are trying to handle this in legal ways. So, but if you have any questions, post them and I will answer them throughout this live video. My computer's finally starting to turn on, so sorry, y'all. Bear with me. Who is that? I don't know if I know you, but hi, Trey the band. Hi. This is why I don't do technology, first of all, because my computer was on and then it turned off by itself. So I might just do this without it. But I do want to give a few more people a chance to come on. So, man, Kobe though, y'all, like, what the heck? And his daughter, ugh. That's just crazy. Yeah, okay, I'm not gonna, my computer's in its own world. So I'm gonna wait like 2 more minutes though before I get started. I know, it's so sad. And now they're reporting that there may have been 9 people on the plane. So that's just sad. It's crazy because obviously, like, you never think of loved ones passing, but you really never think of, like, celebrities passing. And it's crazy because, yeah, they're human too, so we should. But you just, like, kind of, in a way, you unconsciously put them on a pedestal to where you think, like, nothing can ever happen to them. But life has a way of humbling you really quickly and showing you that death comes for everyone. So prayers to the Bryant family, prayers to all the families that have been affected by the crash. Yeah, just pray that God's covering them, because it's just sad. And, you know, we just have to keep in mind that you gotta live. If you're afraid to do something, just do it. You know, if you've been sitting and wanting to do something and are kind of like not sure if you're gonna get the support that you want, just do it, with or without the support, because you just don't want to die knowing that you didn't get to do the things that you wanted to do in this life, because you only get one. So make it your best, because you really never know. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and get started. So like I said, I can only give y'all so much information, but if anybody has any questions, just post it and I will answer it throughout this video. So basically, I want to start with some background information, like I said, as much as I can give, and then I'll move into what we want, what we mean when we say justice for Shawn and for all the others that have unfortunately lost loved ones, lost their own lives, had to deal with a whole bunch of BS due to big corporations like Kaiser treating them as disposable. So Shawn was sick in the month of April, and so he went to the doctors and he was told that he had bronchitis, and he was prescribed antibiotics, like cough medicine and antibiotics, and no blood work was drawn. He was seen for his bronchitis like twice, I believe, and then he was also seen by a dentist and a dental surgeon. So he was seen by 6 different medical services, and not one of them drew any blood or did anything like that, or more intrusive. They just kept passing him along like, oh, it's bronchitis, just take this medicine, just take this medicine, just take this medicine, you'll be all right in a couple weeks. So all of that happens, and then on the night of April 25th, he just kind of like out of nowhere started coughing up blood. And so he called his girlfriend, and she came over, and yeah, I think he was given cough medicine at first. And then like on the second visit or something, he finally got antibiotics. Some BS. They passed him along and didn't make sure what they were giving him was what he actually needed, and what they were saying he had was what he actually had. So they went to the ambulance, got there. They decided to go in the ambulance. They get to Kaiser around 1-something in the morning, and he's coughing up blood repeatedly. They draw blood. They get him back in the room, and they're like, okay, his white blood cell count is super low. You know, are you guys on drugs? Do you guys use needles? Do you have AIDS? And the answer is no. And no. Do you smoke tobacco? Things like that. Like, no. So, and then they're trying to figure out, like, okay, so why is his white blood cell count so low? Why is he septic? Which means basically that his immune system was like crashing. So while they're trying to figure out that, he gets a chest x-ray, and they're like, oh, okay, it's kind of cloudy, so you have pneumonia. So you have pneumonia and your white blood cell count is low. We don't know why. And so that's why they brought up the AIDS. But then the test came back to prove, like we all know, like he didn't have AIDS. He wasn't on drugs or anything. So now from, let's see, I got there at almost 5 in the morning because I was in Oakland. So my mom was out of town. So initially it was my grandpa and Shania, who was at the hospital. And for anybody who doesn't know, Shania is his girlfriend. But the two of them, so it was just initially Shania who was there with my brother. Then my grandpa got there. And then I arrived. I want to say around almost 5. I believe it was almost 5 in the morning. I was speeding, y'all. I was speeding. But by the time I got there, they were just kind of waiting. Like the tests, they had already drawn the blood, and at this time, like they were just trying to figure out why his symptoms were presenting as they were. And so while we're waiting, so mind you, they got there. I get there 4 hours into them already being there. Okay. And he's still in the ER room. They're saying that his immune system is literally at 0.01, but he's not in ICU. Nobody's being told to wear gloves or mask. You know, for somebody whose immune system was pretty much nothing, it was no precaution after that. It was just like, all right, it is what it is, which is I find crazy. And oh, now my computer wants to come on. So I'm there, and now it's just like, okay, we're waiting to figure out why this is what it is. And we're like, okay, so while we're waiting, his breathing continuously gets worse. So first he was able to talk. He was able to talk and things like that. And then it came to, too hard to talk. So at first he was only coughing up blood. And then he complained that he was starting to be able to feel the blood on inhale and exhale. And so at first they had this little nose cannula in, and that was giving him oxygen. They realized that wasn't working. His oxygen levels were dropping. His heart rate was going up. So they upgraded him to a face mask. But he was dripping in sweat, you guys. Like, it looked like he had just finished running a marathon or just finished playing like 5 basketball games. He was dripping sweat so badly that the face mask kept sliding off of him. So he wasn't sufficiently getting the air either. And his breathing kept continuously getting worse. So by this time, it's been like, 5 hours that we're just kind of waiting. And he's continuously still throwing up blood into those throw up little green, like whatever vomit bags. He's gone through like 5 of those by now. Still not moved to the ICU, nothing like that. Not moved to Modesto where the specialists are. So Manteca Kaiser doesn't even have specialists on staff. Like, that's just their practice. So they didn't move him to where they could actually like service him or anything. He wasn't treated as urgent as his symptoms were being presented. And so after they put him on the face, or before they put him on the face mask, they brought up intubation, and he said, okay, let's do it. They said, no, let's try the face mask first. So we're like, okay, let's try it. So it's not working, but they're taking forever to come back and recognize that that's not working. And so we're like, we don't know what to do. Like, at that point, my grandpa had gone home, and it was just me and Shania, and then my uncle got there. So he was using the face mask for, I want to say maybe an hour. I'm really not sure. My notes aren't up right now. But the face mask wasn't working, so he asked again to be intubated. And so I was like, he asked twice, like, get him what he's asking for. And so the doctor finally came. That was the first time the doctor came, when he asked the second time to be intubated. And she kept getting paged and literally told us, like, I'm the only doctor on staff. I'm so sorry I can't pay attention. Like, I'm not able to give you the full attention that you deserve or whatever. And we're like, what? Like, this, he can't breathe, and you're more concerned about everything else that's going on. And it's already been hours. He's already gone through literally like 6 to 7 bags of blood coming out of his body. Y'all haven't come back with any new news, no updates or nothing. His nurse made the statement of, I'm not going to leave your side because I don't like how they're treating you. Yet she didn't do much either. So it was just like, everybody was just kind of standing around in awe instead of actually like using their licenses to help. So once he asked to be intubated again, the doctor agreed. And then it became like, okay, well, a back and forth. Should we page the anesthesiologist, so, or should we wait? Now we're waiting even further, like 30 more minutes for them to decide if they want to go ahead and page the anesthesiologist, who comes up and puts you to sleep and performs, helps perform the procedure of intubation. So that's 30 more minutes that we're waiting, because they don't know if they want to wait until they get off shift at 8, or they want to go ahead and do it now and maybe get off late. Like, they're joking about them getting off in a few minutes right outside of his room. All while I'm wiping the sweat off of his face, trying to get him the mask to be able to stay on so that he could actually breathe. And so they finally paged the anesthesiologist, and they asked us to go wait in the waiting room. So by this time, it's about 7:45, almost 8 at this time. And intubation takes about 20 minutes. And so, we're waiting. And I'm like, okay, it's taking a little bit of time. So I'm like trying to listen out for codes and see if I hear any codes, see any people running around or anything like that. And no. And they had this nurse come and get me, and there was this empty triage room in between, back to where his room was, and the emergency room. So you guys know, when you first go to the emergency room, they take you into that little room, and they take your blood pressure and your weight. So she pulled me into one of those empty rooms, and I'm signing paperwork. So it's like admitting paperwork, and then this form comes up, and it basically asks for me to sign to be his verbal. Basically, my mom wasn't there, so I was his spokesperson, his verbal spokesperson, until my mom, who was actually responsible for him, arrived. So I saw, as that paperwork comes up and they ask me to sign, something clicks in my head. Like, I've never seen this before. Why are they having me sign this? This doesn't make sense. But so I'm like, okay, cool. I sign it. I go sit back down, and then as soon as I sit down, something just told me, like, no, something's not right. It's almost 8. It's like 8:15 at this time. I'm like, nah, something's not right. This shouldn't be taking that long. So as soon as I pop back up to go be like, what's going on? Another nurse comes, and she's like, for Washington or whatever, and pulls us into that same room, and she stops. And I just knew something wasn't right. So I said, what? Like, what's going on? And she's like, yeah, for like literally in that moment. Like, I didn't think anything was wrong until that moment. And I'm like, what? And so it's me, Shania, my grandpa, and my uncle. And she's like, well, when we went to intubate him, he stopped breathing, and we're doing compressions now. Do you have any questions? And I literally thought to myself, like, be questions. And I couldn't say anything. I just remember, like, grabbing Shania's hand, and we just ran back there. My grandpa and uncle, I think they were kind of confused on the verbiage that she used. So they initially went to ask a question, but then when they saw me take off, they came. And we got into the room, and they were doing compressions, and it was like, I'm not even kidding y'all, the whole time we were there, this many people weren't concerned about him. Out of nowhere, I don't know if this was like the crash team or what, but to me, it was idle hands. It was like 12 different people in the room standing around, while one person was on top of him doing compression. So when we run in the room, I'm on his left side at his head. Shania's on his left side next to me by his waist. My grandpa is on his right side at his head, and my uncle is behind me in the doorway of the other room. And I love y'all too, like, man. And they're doing compressions, and we, my hand was up, and Shania's hand's up, and she's praying, and we're just telling him to breathe. That's all we could get out, was just breathe, Shawn, breathe. And mind you, so like, my mom wasn't there, none of my aunts were there, my grandma wasn't there. They was all out of town. And so we had been communicating to them, texting them in our family group chat, like giving them updates. And to this day, I really don't know how we were able to do all of this. It was nothing but God. But I'm one hand in the other hand, and I'm getting my phone, and I'm dialing I don't even know who I called. One of my aunts who, they were all together with my grandma. So I called one of their phones on FaceTime. And I was just thinking, like, the Bible says when 2 or 3 or more of like mind are gathered and they call on his name, you know, he will come, he will show up. And I'm thinking, like, okay, we got to get everybody online to make sure everybody is praying so that it's more than 2 or 3 of like minds. Like, so God hears us and comes into this room and saves my brother. I'm literally saying, like, Jesus, don't take my brother Shawn. Breathe, just breathe. And I'm dialing, I get my aunt on the phone, and I'm like telling my grandmother, because she's like the most spiritual, God-fearing person that I know. So I'm like, if I can get her to pray, we're gonna be good. Like, and it's crazy because even still in that moment, I'm looking at the monitor, just waiting for it to jump like it does in the movies. You know, I'm just waiting for, and I'm looking at his chest, just waiting for it to rise, waiting for him to take that breath, because I know in my heart I'm calling on Jesus. And I get my family on the phone, and everybody's just saying, breathe, Shawnee, breathe, Shawnee, breathe, Shawn. And I'm screaming. So my mom's not with them. My mom and one of my aunts was on a plane heading to us because we told them, like, it's bad. I thought a miracle would happen. I did too. Like, I swear to God with all my heart. And I think that's partly why I'm kind of angry, is because I truly believe that a miracle was going to happen. And I'm calling God to be with my brother and to not take him. But I'm going to speak on it too, because it all comes full circle to where I can still praise his name. At the end of all of this, anger or not, I can still praise his name. I'm going to speak on it. But so I'm screaming, get my mom on the phone, get my mom on the phone. Like, all he wanted was her there. He kept saying, Mommy's plane lands at 8. Mommy's plane lands at 8. Mommy's plane lands at 8, right? Yes, she's close. And it was crazy because it was almost like he realized, okay, it's 8 o'clock. She's close. I'm tired of fighting. She'll be here soon. I'll be all right. But get them on the phone. They get my mom on they call my mom, and we're all screaming for him to breathe. My mom's on the phone. And I'm just screaming, Jesus, don't take my brother. Jesus, don't take my brother. Shawn, breathe. And something just clicked for me to start telling him, Mommy loves you. Nanny loves you. And I'm naming off names. Wari loves you. I love you. Allison loves you. We all love you. Just so he knows, like, he's surrounded by his family. And they're there and they love him. And that is okay. My grandpa's rubbing his head. Shania's rubbing his head. Like, we're man. It was like a scene from a movie, y'all. Like, that's why it's crazy that a miracle didn't happen. And I was calling on God, and I expected him to show up and in that way, as it, you know, to save him and to bring a miracle. But I praise him in this because he works in mysterious ways, and his ways are better than our ways. And the way that I wanted him there was not good enough. The way that he had to show up was a way that he embraced my brother, wrapped his arms around him, and took him home with him. That was the way he had to show up. So we called on him, and he was there, just not in the way that we imagined, because his ways are way far beyond what we could ever imagine. So I praise him because he had my brother in that moment. I know he did. And I had to put my feelings and my thoughts aside because he showed up in the way that only God can show up. And that is powerful, and that is beautiful, and I'm thankful for that in every way. He was not alone in that moment. He felt his embrace. Jesus was there, and he took my brother, and he carried him to the throne. I can praise God in that, y'all. Like, what? Man. So, I'm sorry, y'all. God has better plans. Yes, he does. You tell a story with so much strength. You are so amazing. Thank y'all. Like, I swear, y'all have been amazing. Like, my family is so thankful. So thankful. I can't even put into a full sentence how thankful we are. But so my mom gets on the phone. She's able to say to him that she loves him, and he's asleep. So the anesthesiologist, and this is also what I'm thankful for, and how you just know God works in mysterious ways. They didn't want to call the anesthesiologist, but he came, and my brother was asleep before he stopped breathing. He wasn't in no pain. He for a moment in that time, after all those 8 hours of suffering and being tired and struggling to breathe, he had a moment of peace. My God. Only God can do that. Nobody else knew what he needed in that moment. And so they're doing CPR, and they say, you got 1 minute. And y'all, I'm obsessed with my medical shows. My husband is now a firefighter. I've used to want to be a doctor, so I know what they meant when they said you got 1 minute. They were saying there's 1 minute left of you doing compressions, and then you have to stop. And I screamed, no, and the minute was gone. She got off him, and I just fell on his body, and I still, while my head lay on his unwavering chest, I'm waiting for that moment. And everybody you hear the beep, and he just, I'm just waiting for his chest to move up and down. And I feel like I have been stuck in that moment for months. Shania was laying, waiting. We were all just waiting. My grandpa was just rubbing his head, waiting for him to just take another breath and for him to come back to us. But like I said, he had peace, and God had wrapped his arms around him and carried him for us. And so my mom heard them. They stopped. They called time of death at 8:21, and I just, I tell my family, literally waiting. He had been gone for hours when I got there, and I was just waiting for his chest to rise, just staring at him. Yeah, like we all were just waiting for it. Like literally, I remember when you got there, Allison, I think we sat by each other and we just kept staring at his stomach, just like, it's been a few hours, but he finna breathe. Like, he finna breathe. I couldn't even move. I just had to be, dead ass. We was holding hands up in the air like this, just stuck. Then they brought us chairs, and we just sat there staring. My grandpa wouldn't even sit down. My grandpa had COPD. He couldn't even breathe. He would not sit down. That was his child. That was his son. He would not sit down. And so my mom ended up hanging up, because when they called time of death, I said to my family that was on FaceTime, I said, he's gone. And they're like, what? And I'm like, he's gone. And I just collapsed on him, and my uncle took the phone, and I don't know what they talked about or whatever, but my mom had hung up by then because she didn't want to hear it. And they didn't tell my mom. My sister wasn't there either. My sister was out of town, so she didn't know yet. But my mom got there, and I met her outside the hospital, and I just told her, Mom, he didn't make it. And she just screamed. The kind of scream that I will never forget. And she almost collapsed in my arms, and I just carried her in to see her. She screamed the whole way through. I hate that I had to tell my mom that. And then I had to call my dad and tell him. And then I had to tell all my family, because they weren't there. And then Shania had to tell her mom and her grandparents. And my grandpa had to tell my sister. I had to call my brother's best friend and tell him. That phone call to my brother's best friend so I have two of his all of his best friends are like my brothers, but two that three that I grew up with, but two that I was still close with. And so I called Torrin, and that was hard, having to tell his brother, tell him that his brother was gone. And then he had to tell James, and then James had to tell Ryan and Cameron and Phil, and it just trickles over, so much heartbreak. And so my mom gets there, all my family arrives, you guys. So when we sent him out in style. We played Kanye all the way out to the hearse. We played it after the hearse, and yeah, so it was tragically beautiful. That's the best way to sum it up. Easily the worst day of my life. That's her baby. I can't fucking fathom. I can't imagine. Never. It was tragically beautiful. And so now that you guys have as much background as I can give, I'm not going to go into what didn't happen, what should have happened. Y'all will hear about that soon, as you got a little snippet of it through my post yesterday. But just know it's a whole itemized list of things, you guys. But that'll be released in due time and when it's proper time. But so what the outcome of this, right? What are we meaning when we say we're seeking justice? What do we want done? What are we after when we want media attention and with lawyers and things like that? So we want to sue Kaiser. We want to, but we're having so much trouble finding lawyers who are not too afraid to go up against such a big corporation. And I feel it, because this is their livelihood. This is how, this is how they make money. So if they don't win, they're fearful that they won't get, they won't get their money. But we need somebody who believes in the cause and believes in fighting for people who can easily be slid through the cracks and pushed to the shadows. Because like I said, this is not the first time this has happened. This has been going on for years. And actually, nurses, in this specific Kaiser, nurses and families marched in 2013 about the cuts and the lack of staffing that they have there. This is nothing new. They just came up against a family that ain't afraid of a fight, that ain't afraid of a dollar amount. We're going to put in the work every way we know how to make sure something gets done. Like, we're not sitting out here just wanting money from this. That's the last thing really on our minds. What we want is change. We want to make sure this never happens again. We want to make sure there's policies around this. And I'll get specific when my notes, I'm pulling them up right now. My computer finally working. But we want to make sure there's procedures around this. We want to make sure that this doesn't just get blown over and it's just another story that another case, and it's like, well, that's Kaiser, what can you do? No, we want accountability. Yeah, we want accountability. We want people to be held responsible for their shortcomings in a field that is so precious. We want them to stop treating their patients as disposable, as assembly line members. We want them to actually view people who may not have insurance at all or may have left their insurance at home, to view them as equally valuable as the people who are paying cash, who have Kaiser, who have Blue Shield or Medi-Cal. We want people to be treated equally, and it's crazy that we still have to be talking about this, but not just equally, but equitably as well. Let me get my notes, because I really want to be able to pinpoint this exactly, you guys. These are human lives. Facts. Stop looking at these as just bodies, right? Or medical practices, things that you see every day. No, this is somebody's son, brother, father, cousin, best friend, teacher, counselor, whatever. And we gotta make sure that they see us. They tend to not see us. We have to make sure that changes. And this is why I say it's crazy and how we're still able to praise God in this, because I believe in all my heart that this was meant to create some form of change. It may be small, it may be big, it may be the most impactful thing in the world, and it may only impact one person. But if it creates some type of mind shift, some type of community uprising to make sure that we hold these people accountable when these things happen, so that it's just not brushed off the shoulder, swept under the rug, and no longer talked about. That's not okay. And as people, we shouldn't be okay with it continuing to happen. This shouldn't have to affect you personally for you to be able to speak on this, to stand up on this, to understand that this could be you or your loved one someday. And even if it's not, could you really sleep at night knowing that there are people who are relying on a system that was never built for them, that have no choice but to rely on a system that's not built for them, or a broken system, or a system that nobody cares about, that's janky? Like, we can't all be doctors. So what are we supposed to do when we need help? If we now recognize it, it's just like how black people recognize that we can't call the police for everything because they might end up turning guns on us. We clearly now know we can't trust hospitals. We can't go to doctors for anything either. So where do we go, especially for people of color? If my insurance card or my wallet isn't big enough, where do I go if you're not going to see me unless I have those things or unless my skin is pale? It just don't make sense. And you telling me to sit and be content in that? Nah, bro. Nah, that's not how it works. We want Kaiser to be held accountable for the inability to serve their patients. We want public recognition and an apology from Kaiser. We want policy and procedure change to ensure that patients are receiving proper and prompt medical services. We want Kaiser Manteca to be shut down. Yes, shut down. We don't want them to just be reprimanded or nothing like that. They clearly need to be shut down because they've been having issues at that clinic for years. We want Kaiser Manteca to be shut down due to low staffing and budget cuts that have unfortunately resulted in death and despair for many brown, black, white, poor or rich, many. We want Shawn's story to be an example of why this system needs to change and make sure no other family suffers the way that we've had to. He has a now 6-month-old, beautiful, smart, outgoing, sarcastic little girl that will never know just how great her father is, because there is no putting it into words. For what? Because Manteca Kaiser failed to do their ABCs of medical practice. We want Kaiser Manteca to treat everyone immediately and according to the ABCs of emergency, regardless of their insurance status. Like, how is there... I'm going to pull up the law when we get more into this. I'm not going to do it on this video. But I know that there's a law that states that you have to treat the patient regardless of that status. But for some reason, hospitals have these little practices that they do that says, oh, well, we can treat you, but we have to get this and this cleared before we can do it. My brother should have been immediately transferred to Modesto Kaiser where the specialists were, but because they couldn't get in contact with Blue Shield, who was his insurance, they would not transfer him. There needs to be some policy, practice, or procedure change in that. It should state you treat him, you transfer him, you run the test regardless of their insurance status, and you bill them later. You worry about that later because the life should be what is set as precedent in the moment. Not the money, not the paycheck, or not crossing off something off of the list. No. You took an oath when you got into this that stated that you put your patients above everything else. Yet we never see it when we come to you. Where's the disconnect? We want ambulance companies to stop taking critical or seriously ill patients to Kaiser Manteca until they are assured that they have enough qualified staff to manage the ER. I don't want to hear about how many PAs you have on staff, how many nurses you have. I want to know how many doctors y'all have on staff. And it should also be some policy change around how many actual doctors are on staff during business hours in general. So we have policy around for every 5 children, there has to be 1 adult when you work in schools and daycares and things like that. So why not for every blank amount of patients, You have blank amount of doctors on staff. Doctors that aren't getting paged every 2 seconds and are forgetting what they're supposed to be telling you because they're so understaffed and don't know what else to do. They took an oath. Beautiful baby girl. His daughter, yo.